housing code without the sunset, which I think was a great thing.
Explain what it is.
If we had the sunset, we'd have to keep renewing it, and it would just die if we didn't renew it. So I think that was a good thing that we just did. Hot off the press, just this afternoon, I got the agenda for next week. We're going to talk about downtown safety. We were supposed to talk on the 8th, this is on the 8th too, we were supposed to talk about inclusionary zoning, and somehow it got moved into nowhere. There's not a date for it right now. It had been on the agenda for a long time. I'll say more about that later. But we're going to talk about downtown safety because 74 people spoke at council meeting, public forum last time, and at least half of them were talking about downtown safety. A lot of it was about feces, which does have to be somewhere, just as people have to be somewhere. But the packet I just got said that we'll be discussing 2 ordinances, one about dogs and one about smoking, which are under separate coverage. And I thought, where? I didn't see them. And then I read that we'll get them before the meeting. But, so I don't know what they say. But I know that some people think we should ban smoking from all of downtown. And there are good and bad points about that. Like people will be running to the neighborhoods to smoke if they can't smoke there. And dogs, they say you have to have a license, well, they're already supposed to have a license. So I haven't seen those ordinances yet. Another thing that has been suggested is to get rid of the covers of the shelters from the rain in order to discourage people from hanging out. And I think that's inhumane.
What shelters?
There, in the park blocks, there are some, part of it's covered, there's some area that's covered. Yeah, and some people have suggested that we get rid of the covers to discourage people. Discourages all kinds of people if it's raining. I don't know, it's interesting, a lot of people say they want more police downtown. We got a letter from a priest who said that he wanted to sit there and relax for a while and before a council meeting, and there were so many police officers that he couldn't relax. There's usually another side to whatever. But at any rate, if you want to express your opinion on that, you can write or call counselors. And I think, I don't know what will happen with that. But anyway, that's on the agenda. And inclusionary zoning, which I thought was really important, is lost for now. And I just looked and I said, what happened to it? And I was told, well, we had to move it. That's something that I was talking about almost 20 years ago. The legislature passed a law saying we could not have inclusionary zoning. They just finally lifted the ban. And Portland has already passed it, the inclusionary zoning ordinance. And we have yet to discuss it.
Could you define it?
The inclusionary zoning, it could be done lots of different ways, but you're including less expensive things with other kinds of housing. In some places, it might be 10% of a housing development. For example, Amazon Corners could be that way. If the developer wanted to, he could do it whether it's required or not. But 10% might be available to people with less income. And it could be less luxurious. You could skip the carpeting, or if it's housing development, you could skip the 2-car garage and dishwasher and all those things. But it's mixing less wealthy people in with others, which is, I think, a really good thing. But we haven't even discussed it yet, and I don't know when we will. So you might put some pressure on other people if you want to. Housing, well, housing in general is a big thing. I think what we need is, well, Heather just suggested using the lockers at Amazon Park for homeless people. That sounds like a good idea, but people need a place where they can lock things. They need a bed. I think a shelter would be a good idea. And we a shelter could be like a monastery, wouldn't need to be fancy. Just places, if any of you have ever stayed at the monastery up the river, I stayed there once, where you just have a bed, and if you can lock it, that's enough for transitional housing. We'll be discussing that soon. We'll be discussing parks funding. And there are people who think we should have a parks district. It's one possibility, and there are people who think we should have a special tax for parks, which is another way of taxing. They're both taxing. And I was really glad when we passed the park bond, which Deborah Noble helped with too. She's helped with a lot of things, but I was glad that we just did it for land, because you can't make more land, and you don't do it. If you don't do it, you can't do it later. The development, however, we don't have money for, or that's, at least they say we need more money. And one possibility is a parks district, and that's something one of the things we'll probably discuss. So I'm interested in your ideas about that.
I had a question about that.
Yeah.
Don't developers, they pay, they have SDs, systems to develop development
System
charges?
development charges,
That's
yes.
supposed to be partly for parks, I thought, too.
Part of it is, yes. But it seems that we don't have enough money. There's never enough money. The problem with a parks department, in my opinion, is you have a separate government there. And I lived where we had a parks department, and there are good things about it. They can tax and they get money, but most people don't know who's on the parks board. So it's another government that is not within your purview, really. Very few people work on it. But those are the main things that are coming up soon, I think. And I'd be glad to hear your comments. I know most people want to talk about Amazon Corners, and I want to know about that too. David?
Can I ask you about the rental housing program? So y'all you did away with the sunset. My understanding there was about $200,000 sitting in that account. So what I'm wondering is the city not letting renters know about the program sufficiently?
It has not been sufficiently advertised, and we're probably going to.
Did y'all talk about doing
Yes,
something?
we did.
Good.
What is
because
that? Could you explain that to me?
all landlords pay into the rental housing program, $10 per unit.
$10 for a whole year.
For a whole year, yeah. And with the idea that the city would be a resource for complaints about the living space.
Mold or lack of heat
Yeah.
or lack of lock or.
If I could add, the Oregon State has specific rules, but there is no way to enforce it. So the city rental code is to be the enforcement arm of the state regulations.
So there's somebody locally you can complain to. But no, it hasn't been sufficiently advertised, and there is a plan to spend some of that money to advertise it. Because a lot of people didn't know we had such a thing. We had a rental code in 1980. I used it when the landlord was trying to put in a laundromat on my electricity. He said, no, we're not using yours. So as soon as they got it in and they turned the washing machine on, and I went and flipped the switch on my meter, and there was a knock on the door saying, did you turn the electricity on? Yeah. So at that time, if you complained, then the landlord, if it's a landlord who has a lot of property, they couldn't raise the rent on any of them for a year. But that was one aspect of that. But when we cut the budget after Measure 5 in 1997, we started cutting the budget. Same year I went on the council. And one of the first things to go was the rental housing program. And people who say we would never get rid of it, that's not true. It was easy to get rid of it. But, so it's good that, I think, in my opinion, it's good that we got rid of the sunset. So that at least it can't just disappear easily. Any other questions about that? Okay, I think that's enough unless there's something you want to say. I brought the future agendas here. We'll be just, another thing is a nuisance code we'll be discussing soon. Whether we should have more, I've got a lot of calls, I don't know if any of you live next to these places, but about abandoned houses
Yes.
and houses that have big piles of dry wood and tall weeds. And especially in the summertime, people get really worried about fires.
The electricity.
There's more sheets over here if you think.
Trying to save.
Yeah, there's a few.
So, I asked for this work session, it is on the agenda sometime next month, I think, when we'll be discussing possible nuisance codes. I gave staff information about 3 places that have good codes, where Dallas and Bend and, the other one now. Oh, Brownsville has good ones. But, we don't have anything. And another thing people have been asking me about a lot is, why are we so low on the street cleaning, street plowing priority list? And I've been asking about that, and I will bring it up again at the next council meeting. Thank you.
Oh, Betty? Betty,
Yes.
can you say, what are the days that if people want to speak at the council, they can come to?
Second and fourth Mondays, 7:30. You can speak on anything related to the city. You need to get there early to sign up,
Except during breaks.
like 7:15 or 7:20. And except when we're on break, yes, with second and fourth Mondays. Thank you. Thank you.
And for those who don't know, the city has done a really fabulous redo on their website. So you can now watch city council meetings live streaming on YouTube, which is a big advancement over what we had before.
Was that Mondays or Thursdays?
It's Mondays. So now I'd like to invite Evan and Alyssa up to the front. I'm going to put them on the spot and make them introduce themselves. They both have considerable knowledge regarding the topic of Amazon Corner, as well as land use in general. And I'll have them introduce themselves